Hi everyone, it's Adrienne Leah. This is going to be a special video of me talking about some of the things that I read in one of the chapters in the book The Morrigan Celtic Goddess of Magic and Might by Courtney Weber. I love this book. Some books I use for referencing, but other books I like to read, and this book is one that I enjoyed reading. I did underline some things in throughout the book, and I wanted to share some of my thoughts and comment on them. I will have to do multiple parts for this, and even with one chapter, I'll probably do another part, so I don't have to rush too much into it. So, Courtney Weber also made a book about Bridget. I love her writing style, and I love that she put her own words on the Celtic lore, and she put extra information in there too. So before we get started, I'm going to show yesterday's cards that I got. So yesterday I actually changed my crystal from the Crystal Oracle, and I got clear quartz, and this would be for me the clear communication with the Morrigan, because on her altar I do have a specific clear quartz, and then I do have the first rain of May, and on top of that I have a copper disc, and copper is a natural energy conductor, so if I want further communication, I put the clear quartz on top of the copper disc. So there were other meanings for this too, with planning and focusing and putting your work out there for what you would like to manifest. I also got a confirmation card from the Circle of Life Tarot. This is the first edition. And the Lover's card is one of my confirmation cards that I get in tarot. Another one is the Queen of Swords. Then for my rune, I feel like this went with the theme of tear. And for me, that really correlates with justice and getting things done and putting the work forth on things that you care about. And I wanted to read in the guidebook for this card, which is from the Goddess Dream Oracle, Self-Exploration, Fairy Tales, and Myths. I love the badger in here. It is an aggressive energy. Then you have the fox and the owl in the background. The fox looks like it's lurking. I'll read the book while I hold this up. Deep in the forest of your remembering she comes, in stillness she comes, in myth, fairy tale, and folklore she comes, with stories of losing and finding, of depths and height, of loneliness and connection. Goddess encourages you to recall those stories long ago and far away. They are as relevant now as they have always been, maybe more so. You might like to reread stories from your childhood or discover anew some myths, folklore stories, and fairy tales. See if they touch something deep within you that lain forgotten all these years. Perhaps there's a message hidden there might help with the current concern. Dig deep, for a message may be well buried. Persevere with badger strength and determination to help you as much may be revealed. Like music, distantly heard, initially the notes come separately on a breeze, but as you get nearer, they unite from the new tune. So it is with myths and fairy tales. As they take you into a voyage of self-discovery, gradually the symbols, paradigms, and archetypes come together to throw light on area of inner darkness. Bring healing to old wounds and connection to your inner self. Explore the area around you where you live. The countryside, woodland, parks, rivers, lakes, and seas. Wherever you are, the land and water will have a story to tell. Spend time seeing it if you can hear the story that is being told. In hearing the story, you become one with it. Goddess is speaking to you through every plant, tree, mountain, valley, blade of grass, and droplet of water. Listen, listen. The affirmation is, I can make the voyage of self-exploration through fairy tale, myth, and folklore. And this day I was feeling like I wanted to do a video like this. I know that Chrissy Cosmos did request more videos about the Morrigan, and I was thinking for a while of what I would do. And I know that this book specifically, I have a couple books on the Morrigan, but this one's one that I like to read, and I keep it in my bag sometimes to read. So I also wanted to pull out a card for this video. This is going to be a longer one, and I'll keep a steady pace. I don't think I want to read the whole chapter through, but I did underline stuff, and I'll comment and go around whatever those things are. So the card is Strength, Inner Dragon. And the purple is really sticking out to me. It feels like it's a regal card, and it complements well with the gold. There is a connection you see with the figure and the dragon locking, and it does seem like there is a bit of a trance, or it is more of a meditative type of imagery, because the strength can be coming from different aspects of yourself. And as the card says, Inner Dragon, we put forth what we want to have to manifest outward. It might be difficult to get to those places in yourself to bring out this strength. You can see that it may be more of a painful experience, and in general, just it could be difficult to find. But if you just look within and you practice, I feel like you will be able to make progress in that. And I feel like you will get satisfaction with what you find. And it might be completely opposite of what you're thinking, or what you knew to be true. I might have to take some breaks in between because my osteoarthritis is acting up. So I might pause the video, and it might be that I change positions. So the chapter that I wanted to first go through is chapter 4, Goddess, Fairy, or Both. And this is not the beginning of the book, but it's my favorite chapter. She does talk about her personal experience in this too, and a story that she has gone through in life is the first part of the chapter. The perception of the Celts and fairies. I underlined the Morrigan could have been the great fairy Ismaka, as we see in this chapter, sometimes believed to be fairy as well. And I underlined it because that's how I really connect with Maka. I really like what she was saying about the personality that you might have, that a fairy might have. Fairy lore is deeply tied to the spirituality of the Celtic world, particularly in Ireland, where the human relationships to fairies as historically has been complicated mix of fear, awe, and reverence. Fairies are cunning. They can also be cruel. Some can be beautiful, some ugly. Some to believe to have middling interest in humanity, and others said to hunt humans down for sport. They can be kind or tricky, blessing or cursing, or stealing milk, butter, and human babies. Perhaps most importantly and most commonly misunderstood, they have not traditionally been believed to do humanity's bidding. Like humans, they have understood their own agendas, morals, and cultures. And that stood out to me because I know that for me, when I communicate with the Fae, I'm not expecting them to have more of maybe a common response that other people that work with Fae might have, as that they're automatically going to respond well to you. I feel like having respect for them, it will definitely go a long way. In Irish lore, humans usually try to avoid fairies or struggles to break a fairy curse after inadvertently angering them. They are not automatic friends to humankind, but they are not our natural enemies either. Occasionally, fairies could be helpful to humans. Babe, as we have learned, was sometimes considered a bad fairy. And then the underlined part, the Morrigan could have been known as the Great Fairy, and Maka, as we see in this chapter, sometimes believed to be a fairy as well. And then it has some beliefs of what gods or godlike creatures could be or where they were, general beliefs. And she does connect some of it even going into Christian Ireland. And she does talk about the Tuatha Dé Danann throughout the book, as well as Firbolg, Milesians, or a combination, which correlates with the ancestors of modern Irish arrived on the island. Tuatha were already in full possession of Ireland, but assumably invisibility or disappeared into the hills, reappearing at any time they chose and thus becoming a fairy race. And then talking about Christianity, how it was a strong force in Ireland, and quoting that the fairies were not good enough for heaven, but not bad enough for hell. And there was a perception that Christian symbols could wield power over them. For me, I feel like, of course she was saying it that some people would believe it, but I think it was more of like an irritation than it was of a fear. The term fairy has been ascribed to a number of different spiritual beings, including leprechaun and selkie, beings that take the form of a seal while in the water of a human on land, often marrying and living with a mortal for a time. So that was an example. I would say that I hope this is okay that I'm putting my comments on here too. I'm not saying that she's bad. She's saying stuff that I don't agree with. She's saying stuff in a historical context. I did underline fairies could travel through the air and live underground or beneath the forts or houses of mortal people. So with me, I had an experience when I was younger. The first fae that I met were leprechauns, and I would go over to my godmother's house and I would say sorry to her ground, like if I would walk on her lawn. And my brother sensed it too, that there was something that was different about the ground. And what's interesting about going to my godmother's house is that my godmother is the best friend of my mom, and I have said in other videos that I don't have the best relationship with my mom. It's not a terrible relationship, but we don't really see eye to eye on things that much. So whenever I would have disagreements with my mom, I would stay at my godmother's house. She also talks about holidays pagan holidays, and some ways that fairies are associated with them. On the holidays of Samhain, the early November Celtic feast in honor of the dead, and Beltane, early May, fairies and deceased mortals could have moved freely among the living, playing music, feasting, and making love. They can also go into war. They might occasionally interfere with human activities, either to help or to harm. Sometimes humans who were murdered or killed in combat were believed to reside among the fairies until their natural time came. Sorry, that was really sweet, but let me see. I'm not sure what to call this video. I feel like I'm reading and making comments on certain parts of the things that I find. I like how she talks about the raths and mounds, ruins of the Stone Age structures, believed to be the dwelling places of the fairies. Irish lore is filled with stories of fairies taking revenge on mortals who interfered with these spaces, whether the mortals meant to do so or not. These sites, along with the standing stones, stone circles, and ancient burial grounds, continue to carry strong otherworldly associations. Even today, strong rules remain when and how to approach these places, such as not lingering at such sites or once the sun sets. Landscapes associated with the Fae, ring forts, hills, rafts, and watery places were liminal, not belonging to humans or fairies, but still vested to the fairies in some way. Rivers divided tribal territories, creating the understanding that the river belonged neither to the tribe, that crossing the boundary was an invasion, therefore a danger to a person crossing it. Rivers also provided travel associations with rivers and watery places became associated with fairies too. What's interesting is, like, sometimes they have the belief that the Fae didn't like to cross the waters. I suppose maybe some of them didn't, but there are land Fae and sea Fae. Water Fae. I underline, the Morrigan's presence fades in and out of our lives, leaving to wonder if they have set her. I too have experienced the Morrigan both greatly and faintly as compared to other deities whose presence is more consistent. And I really liked what she said next, and I underlined this too. This might be part of her Fae nature, appearing when she has the purpose for doing so, and then fading back into the mounds, literally and figuratively, to attend business that has nothing to do with us. When the Morrigan's presence is palpable, her assistance is invaluable. When distant, she's not necessarily abandoned us and will return when she's ready. Like the fairy beings they are known to be, the sisters can bring great challenges to our lives. They can also be comforting. Then she goes into stories of the Morriganist Faery. And the first one is about the cattle raid. So cattle could be seen as property, it could be seen as currency. And the cattle raid was something that was enjoyed during this time. The Morrigan may change circumstances so that our desires are within reach, but we still need to finish the work to attain them. Which is one thing that I really admire, is because that she still has you do stuff, and she doesn't just do everything for you. She lets you grow as a person. And she isn't the easiest goddess to work with, but it is a fulfilling experience to work with her. If you guys want me to read through the stories in here, I can, because I feel like they're well written. They're written in a way that stories are today, because sometimes the older stories have the people's way of speaking in the past. She also talks about Maka and when she was racing the horses while she was pregnant. So her husband was told by Maka not to talk about her being quick as the horses, and he ends up doing that. And then Maka is called to race the king's horses, and she was pregnant, and she ended up winning, but she cursed the men with menstrual, or with the birthing pain whenever going into battle. Even if we feel we do not have a human we can trust, Maka may be the one sister who can empathize. And I'm gonna go through comments that, or other stuff in the book that I underlined too. I'm sorry if this is a boring video. The Morrigan fights, loves, curses, blesses, and shapeshifts in the spirit and nature of the fairies. Because I feel like she's unpredictable. She's definitely an exciting goddess to work with, because she does bring you surprises and major changes. I feel like with other daughters of the Morrigan, she definitely gives them a challenge to go through. Because I listened to some of the stories that, or experiences that other people have had in their lives, and a lot of them were really difficult. But then I feel like afterwards it was really rewarding, because they worked through their difficulties and it paid off. And she encourages you in a way where you can get through it. It's something that you have to really think about. And it kind of reminds me of the aspect of the Queen of Swords, where it's more of being mindful and maybe winning a game of chess, or becoming articulate. Like the stories of mortals becoming lost in the fairy world, the Morrigan can take devotees on strange journeys, aligning them with people and situations for a purpose we'll never fully understand. The Fairy Morrigan holds ancient history. She urges us to respect natural places and those who are different from us. I can definitely relate to this too, because I feel like I've had, especially with my group in high school, it wasn't really a group, but it was filled with a bunch of people who were completely different from each other, and a lot of them didn't really have the same interests aside from just being friends. But other than that, I will say that I have had experiences that were completely like off the charts for me, and wondering, that was interesting why I went through that. And the people that I've met were, a lot of them were characters. Or all of them were characters. The Fairy Morrigan may want us to approach her with a light heart. And I feel like that too, because, I'm sorry I keep saying I feel, because I'm not the most aggressive personality, but I feel like I work with a powerful goddess, and one of the strengths that I feel like I exude is strength through kindness, and I try to do that. Because I like, I would say at times, sometimes I feel like I'm getting underestimated, but I like that I can prove to myself, and I don't need to prove to other people, but it seems like I'm able to stand my ground. The Morgan typically responds in kind. Approach the sisters with joy, and they're likely to return it. I mean, she also wrote other things too that I could read. Contemporary Morgan devotion tends to be heavy and dramatic, which makes sense to an extent. The sisters are heavy and dramatic goddesses. But my experiences at Ritual has taught me that the Morgan does not want only serious faces and stern words. The fairy nature of the Morgan may want to have fun too. The Morgan typically responds in kind, respond to the sisters with joy, and they will likely to return it. Fairies are particularly fond of trees that grow in water. The Morgan likes streams and rivers, especially forward areas where they're slow enough to cross without a bridge or boat. Babe is fond of lakes, and Maka likes the ocean. And I'm particular about water too. And I'm almost done with the chapter. I have one more thing that I underlined. Because my favorite type of water right now is a lagoon. I do have this vision when I'm in an ocean and I turn around and there's this eyeball and it's a giant whale, and the water has given me anxiety, like larger bodies of water, but I feel like it's one of my animal totems and goddess speaking through too. So my last thing that I underlined is the fairy Morgan works in peculiar ways. Sometimes these are so subtle we risk missing them altogether. And the need to slow down and watch is yet another gift of Fairy Morgan. We had to take time to notice the gifts and blessings, and we may notice other life treasures as well. So I try to keep an eye out on signs, but sometimes I don't get the hint quick enough, and then I get a hint like right in my face. It's funny. So that was the end of this chapter. If you would like me to go through other chapters, I will, or if you want me to read certain stories, maybe meditation, not so much a meditation, but maybe other people that would like to learn about the Morgan or that follow her will want to have something like that, and maybe I could have like a reading and do other things with it. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this was a nice video for you. If you'd like to see more videos like this or other type of suggestions, you can let me know. Thank you.